Buddy, tonight we have a very special guest. You read all about him. You saw his movies, or at least some of them, all excellent. So let's welcome award-winning producer and super manager, Michael Sugar. Okay.
Graham, hello.
Hi, Michael.
How are you? Thanks for having me.
Good. I'm very excited to have you here. You are so prolific and you're so successful, both as a producer and a manager, but we know very little about your background. And even in Wikipedia, it just gives you a little bit the list of the thing, but not much of a background. So how did you start in the business?
Well, I went to law school, and I always knew I was going to come into the entertainment business. I wanted the education, and so I got to enjoy my experience at law school because I wasn't competing for the big job in a law firm. And I came right out of school and just opened up shop. And I started a company with my brother JB and another friend of his who became quite a successful actor. And we started doing it, and we just started trying to figure it out as we went. We had some early successes, and then over the years, I was, like most producers, really struggling to make ends meet. It's feast or famine. And I was having lunch with a friend of mine, and he was an agent at William Morris, and he said, you should be a manager. It's a great way to learn the business and to meet the right folks. And I said, sure. Well, at the time, I didn't have any clients, and I didn't even have an office. I couldn't afford one. I was taking all of my meetings at the Four Seasons lobby bar on Doheny.
Not bad though.
Yeah, and all of the wait staff were the people I knew, and they were all aspiring actors, and most of them didn't have anybody helping them. So I think my first 5 or 6 clients was the day shift at the Four Seasons lobby bar. And I sort of started from there. That was the beginning, and there's a lot of iterations from there, but that's how it started, the Four Seasons. That's my plug to the Four Seasons. I would like a gift certificate. I don't think I'll get one.
And if I was them, I would give it to you.
Thank you.
So when and how did you get to anonymous content?
So in sort of the spring of 2005, I had a director who had done a film, his first film, that a couple of agents at the big agencies were chasing to sign. And they alerted Steve Golan, who was the founder and CEO of Anonymous Content, about me, having met me through this pursuit. And he called me up and said, come over. And I said to myself, I don't want to work anywhere. I wanted to be on my own. But he gave me this incredible pitch about this platform that he was building there. And I knew it was going to be an easier place for me to grow my business and learn. And that's where it started. So I joined June 1st, 2005. I remember the date well because I was trying to set up my office, and I had to make sure that my TV was working right, because I always have to have a working television and my DVD player. So to see if my DVD player was set up properly, I threw in a short film that someone had sent me, and it was Cary Fukunaga's short film from NYU. And it was my first day at Anonymous, and I called him up, and he said, I've already taken all my meetings. And I said, well, you haven't met me yet. And I got on a plane that night and met him the next day. So I always remember June 2nd. It was
And now he did the last James Bond.
He did.
First American. So you did something good.
Well, I can't take credit for his talent, but
so how long did you stay in anonymous content? That was a powerhouse.
15 years.
15 years?
Yeah, 13 years.
It was a powerhouse management company. I mean, both in terms of the client and the movies they produced. I mean, I remember Steve Golan when he was in partner with Yanis Sivatsan, and they did, the commercial management company.
Sure.
So, yeah, they had incredible clients. at that place. And some of them, like Steve Soderbergh and Kerry Fukunaga and, Leslie Headland, all of them, some of them followed you. So it's a great compliment.
Yeah, but it's still a great management company, Anonymous Content, and they were at the forefront of so much of the disruption in television and certainly in transitioning commercial directors into film and television. So, and they're still doing all of those things. So it was time for me to make a move. Like anybody, there's always a million reasons to stay somewhere and a million reasons to go. But it was my time to go and do, because I wanted to do something different, and that's what we're doing.
But let me ask you something. If you look back at those 13 years, what is the biggest take that you as a manager took from, being in that company?
I mean, there's so many things. I think that, I guess what that company did, I mean, among many other things very well, was it transitioned people from one medium to another. And it's something that I've always felt really strongly about when it comes to filmmakers, that a painter can paint on many different size canvases. And I think that's something that one of the reasons why I was successful transitioning music video and commercial directors into feature film directors is because I believed that if you can paint a great picture on one canvas, you can do it on another, and bet on the storyteller. And I think that's probably 20 years ago, it was sort of epidemic in Hollywood that if you directed comedy, you stayed in comedy. And if you directed action, you stayed in action. And I think Steven Soderbergh is probably one of the best examples of not staying in one particular lane. But most of the iconic filmmakers, I think you can point to films that are different from the other in size and scale and scope and genre even. So I think that was my biggest, hopefully there was one of the things that I took away that I'll always carry with me. And, great friendships there, and we made a lot of good stuff.
What is to you the role of a manager? To you?
To me, okay. So the role of a manager, it's a good question, because it's definitely a mystery to many. I look at it as a person in an artist's life who is directional, who is meant to bring out the best opportunities across their myriad whims and dreams and hopes, right? And I look at my job changes on a daily basis in terms of how the specificity and going into micro issues and out to macro issues. The agents that we work with are phenomenal, right? Largely. There are always exceptions to any rule, but agents are good at what they do. So I don't want to be redundant to an agent. And in order to be valuable and get paid additionally, I've got to do something different. And the way that I approach it is I look at it more holistically, right? My job, if I diminish it down to its most simple form, is to build unlimited opportunity. And so as more and more artists are becoming multi-hyphenate, an agent who is an expert in film may not be an expert in television. But those lines, which used to be so distinct, are completely eviscerated now. The best filmmakers, the best actors do film and television now. And so my job is to empower the film agents to do their best work for the clients, to empower the TV agents to do their best work, to create, in partnership with those agents, most of the time, Steven doesn't have an agent, but most do, innovative deal making and new structure and new ways of thinking. But really, I sit across everything that my clients do, whereas the agents are all certainly informed of what their clients are doing, but there are different experts. So if I look at it like a corporation, like Procter & Gamble, each brand has its own manager, right? Its own brand general manager. Each artist has multiple brands, the brand of writing, the brand of directing, the brand of film, television, playwriting, writing books, doing NFTs, whatever it is, there are different experts. my job is to be as much of an expert as I can be across all of them and make sure that everybody is operating at maximum potential. Sort of like a manager of a restaurant is responsible to make sure the lights are on and the food is good and the orders are being served. And that's how I look at it.
How many clients do you have at any given time, give and take? And what's your system of managing them? Do you have meeting with each one of them, or is as the opportunity comes, you deal with that? Is it a combination of the two?
It's definitely a combination. I have less clients now than I used to have because I was, initially only a manager. Then I moved into production. And now I'm a CEO of a company that's growing really quickly, or two companies actually now. And so I have less clients than I used to, probably 7. And each of them has disparate needs and time requirements, but they're all very busy. So when I started, and I loved this, I would be on the phone with the clients every day, writing notes on scripts. Right. When your clients win Oscars for their scripts, they don't really want your notes as much. And so my value to them changes, and it requires a different kind of operating relationship. And so some clients I speak to more regularly than others. So Steven Soderbergh I speak to when he needs me, and sometimes I speak to him for 10 times in a week, and sometimes I can't get him on the phone. Mostly I can't get him on the phone. But now I'm doing so many different things that my personal role is really to look at my colleagues as my clients, right? And to something that Richard Lovett said to me years ago, that his colleagues were his clients. And I love that. And I feel like I have other managers that work with me now, and my job is to make sure they're empowered and their clients are succeeding, and plus all the other businesses we're in now.
Yeah, I noticed that you have Meredith Wechter and Suki Chu, 2 women that I know very well, and they're fantastic in their as managers and producers. So you mentioned also producing. What are the advantages and disadvantages of producing with your clients?
That's a great question. Well, the advantages are you get to produce with your clients. You get to produce anything, which is always a gift and a miracle. The advantages are that you're in a position to affect and advocate on behalf of their whims and desires better. But you also have to balance not over advocating for your client, because at the end of the day, if you're getting paid to produce for a client, the client is no longer paying commission and the studio is paying my fee. And that means they're my boss. So my job is to empower the client to get what they want, but also to push back when it's appropriate. And I've been lucky enough, I've produced a lot for clients, and I've been lucky to have repeat business with those clients. But they also understand that it's not always going to be the way they want it. But they, that's my job, is to earn their respect enough in that process so that if I push back, they understand that it's probably in the best interest of the movie.
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
I think that's the role of it's a tough position sometimes to be in, I mean,
Yeah, I haven't found myself in any conflict with clients that I produce for. I just haven't had that. And I think I remember when I produced for Carrie for the first time, and I was very careful as a manager to spend a lot of years managing these clients before I became a producer. And I was very careful when I became a producer to actually be a producer and not just take a credit because I could. Right. There are many movies I could have produced that I didn't because other producers were better than I would have been for that movie. So when I became a producer, I was committed to being there, being present, doing the actual job. But I remember with Carrie, when we produced Maniac for Netflix, I said to him before we started shooting, I said, so I am your manager, your producer, and your friend. And I hope at the end of this, I'm at least two of those. And, but I've never had conflict because my clients trust me and I trust them, and the studios trust me. And I think that it's, you know, I had to earn that though. And there's still a stigma for manager producers. And it's an earned stigma because a lot of managers do not actually do the job. What I think Anonymous did very well, and I'm certainly, you know, doing the same thing here, is we built producers. You know, I was not a producer. I learned. I probably logged 2,000 days on set in the last 10 years, and I learned it. And I think that allows a business to scale, right? Because I have a partner, Ashley Zalta, who started working with me years ago as a creative executive, and now she is a network-approved showrunner. She can be on set and manage a show beautifully, which makes me twice as effective because I have a proxy. Yes. And also it's, you know, it's nice to have someone who will spend the time to teach you. Yeah.
No, and I think that if you have a way to deliver certain kind of news, either to the studio or the client, in a very truthful way, in an undramatic way, it probably, you know, gets the job done. You know what I mean?
I think if you just use truth, I think one of the biggest mistakes I see people make in that dynamic is going around and trying to be so sensitive that you don't deliver the message truthfully, and then it creates the problem that everyone was being sensitive about.
Right.
So I try to index to truth pretty much. I mean, that's what I do in every aspect of my life, and it makes it a lot easier. It's not always the way people are, right? I remember I used to play poker once in a while, and I loved it because it would just relax me. And I was once in Vegas, and I was playing with a bunch of people, and I started telling everyone what I had in my hand every time. I said, I've got 2 aces, you should fold. And then they would bet more, and they would lose. I felt badly for someone. So I was actually trying to be nice. I was trying to save this one guy money. I said, you're going to lose, man. Fold. And he didn't believe me.
Right.
And he bet, and I took, you know, I won. And then all night I told the truth, and nobody believed me. But I was like, I remember in that moment thinking, man, Hollywood is the same. Like, truth is so, and I don't mean to be so cynical, because it's not that everyone's liars, but people don't shoot it straight enough. And so I felt like in a world of liars, which is poker, not Hollywood, truth is a weapon. And I've always used that to my, you know, I haven't overplayed my hand when when I ask a studio for something, they know that they can trust me, and that's what it's going to be. And, you know, so that served me well, which also means when I ask for more money, they've believed me, and they know that I haven't, you know, I'm not just trying to overdo the deal.
Fantastic. Okay, I want to ask you about your new startup, which I think is very, very exciting, and I think it's very future forward. And what can you tell us about the X for You?
Oh yeah, X for Y. So, well, it is X for me too, but the business is called X for Y. X4Y is x4y.com is a tech platform which is designed to link creators and brands to pay for their creative. The reason why I did it was I have been in service of commercials directors for many, many years. And one of the things that a commercial director needs to do to be discovered, to get paid, is make a commercial that then goes on the shelf. And I remember thinking to myself how inefficient this is, that people are spending their money making very creative commercials without the benefit of a creative agency, coming up with their own ideas, spending their own money, they get hired to do commercials, and their work, which got them there, is gone. And so I've been thinking about how to bring those creators to a mass market. And I thought, well, 15 years ago, a person with a car and a phone didn't know they had a job until Uber said you did. And people who needed a cab didn't know they could just press a button. Well, there's 30 million companies that are advertising right now, and they don't know that there are hundreds of thousands of phenomenal creators, hopefully all of them in this room right now, who are making really cool shit, if I can say that word, that needs to get an audience who will pay for it, because creators cannot monetize, right? You can do a TikTok, but that's specific. You can be a live streamer, but that's not going to lead to movies and TV. All respect to that, because it's a different model. But we have a couple 100,000 short films made a year. None of them, maybe a half a dozen, ever get their money back. And all this money and time and crews are being dispatched. So what x4y.com is, and people can sign up right now, and I can even see it pop up as creators are signing up all the time now, which is fun. Folks that are, creators that are making commercials that are brand agnostic, preferably, right? Don't make a commercial for Gatorade, because Gatorade doesn't probably want to buy your commercial. Make a commercial for health and wellness, and let any of the thousands of health and wellness companies that would love to have a piece of commercial content to put up on Instagram or Snap or Twitter or whatever, let them pay you for it, because they don't know that people are creating such incredible content. So we have thousands of commercials already there's so many spec commercials, but now people are making these commercials, we're selling them. And also the brands are now coming to us to put out opportunities to this creative community. So what we're looking to do is bring creators in more and more. It's already happening, but we want you, whoever's watching, to come sign up, and we'll give you information. We will educate you on how to monetize this new medium, because it is a new medium, right? We've been trying to solve for branded content for 20 years, right? BMW films.
Yeah.
Everyone talks about it. We did that at Anonymous.
Yeah.
It was 20 years ago. Why is the best version of branded content 20 years old, and we've been chasing it for 20 years? Because in my mind, the white space, the solution is unbranded content. Make emotional content, funny content, make something that some brand will want. I don't care if it's Joe's Candle Shop. They need something that sells their candles, and they will pay to have really meaningful creative that connects, that their brand is connected to enough. It doesn't have to have the candle in it. And so on the other side of this, we have brands, big and small, the biggest in the world down to Joe's Candle Shop. Actually, Joe's Candle Shop is fictional, I think. But we have small, medium, large businesses that are engaging with us, and at scale, and this thing will launch we're in the sort of early stages now, but at scale, which launches in the beginning of 22, we hope to have hundreds of thousands of commercials and brands transacting all the time. We'll also use that as an incubator. We'll discover talent that way. We will help folks. We've already done this. We're matching people with representatives. We're matching people with brands. We're matching ideas and developing that, helping them figure out how to develop it into long form IP. So what we're really trying to do is build on one side the best creative community on the planet. And I think because of folks like you who are being so embracing of us, we're doing that. And on the other side, the biggest grouping of brands that are hungry for this content. And that's what we're doing. I think we're the only marketplace that's doing that. There are a number of, I'll stop talking in a second, but there's a number of companies that are sort of democratizing access to brands. But I believe that creators want to create and they don't need permission. So this is designed to take away the need for permission to create. And to monetize it, hopefully. I mean, not everyone will monetize, but not every short film does. Most don't. We also feel like short films can monetize, right? If a brand finds a phenomenal short film, they can buy it. And so think about all the short films that are sitting in people's, computer hard drives that have lost money that we can now bring life to. We've been doing this all day long, every day.
I think it's incredible. I think I even read in the Hollywood Reporter something, and they were taking that the market for branded creators, creators is basically might even surpass one day, the movie business, in terms of the thing, because this is where it's heading, with influences, with this and that is such a, great, because of somebody like you at the helm who knows their business, who have managed people, who saw all the aspect of where it can go. I mean, I would put my money there other than try, myself on my own on TikTok, that's for sure. Well, let's open up to the students.
I will say, I see you signing up. My phone is going like this, which I love. I feel like I'm on a telethon, but I promise you, you're going to be happy. So thank you for doing it. I'm not going to call people out by names because I don't want to betray privacy, but I'm seeing engagement and I'm excited about it. So thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, let's start. Mike, what do we have?
We have a question from Montserrat. Oh, looks like Montserrat might be having a little trouble with the microphone. I will ask this question. Michael, what is the thing that you are most proud of in your career so far?
In my career? Wow. I could say the obvious things, like Spotlight was obviously a big win. I think the thing I'm most proud of is that I feel good about how I've done it, not what I've done. And I feel proud that I've enabled people to have their dreams realized. For me, that's what I love. It's actually something I miss. As I've become more successful, I deliver less dreams than I used to because people have already achieved them. I used to love the first time someone sold their screenplay or the first acting job. That was a great feeling. But I think I'm proud about the way I've done it. Obviously there's been good moments along the way, but I think if you're talking about my career, that's what I would lean most on, is just I'm proud of what the relationships I've made. I'm proud of this company too, and the people that have joined me here. And so I guess that's probably my greatest source of pride now, professionally. I know my wife is probably watching, and she's like, "Well, can't they ask what you're most proud of personally?" My wife. Now I've covered that. I do love you, Lauren. All right. Moving on.
We do have a question here from Eleanor Teal. Eleanor, we've enabled you to unmute yourself. What is your question for Michael?
Hello from New Zealand. Can you hear me?
I can.
Thank you for your time, Michael. Question is, what key challenges are your Sugar 23 clients facing in today's international market when everything's kind of gone global? And what strategies are you employing to help them achieve their goals?
I mean, the challenges are robust for everyone now because it's all a changing landscape. I think, accessing the global market is kind of not the same market that it used to be because so many of the streamers are global. So in some ways it's cut the friction of having to go wine and dine in every country. And in other cases, it's eliminated the joy of that. I think what we do is, I think on a creative level, it's influenced all of us because you have to program to a global audience in a way that you didn't have to before. You used to have to program to an American audience, and it would be a icing on the cake if a global audience embraced it. Now, the lens through which decisions are made is a global lens. So I think it starts with the the ideas and the IP and where you're indexing to as a creator. In terms of accessing international dollars, it's tough, and I think it will swing back because more and more people are looking for those opportunities, and the streamers have moved much more mainstream largely. So there's still a need for independent film, and I think it will lean back on the international market over the coming years to some degree.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
We have a question here from Nicholas Peach. Nicholas, we've enabled you to unmute yourself. What is your question for Michael?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
I know studio interference is infamous. I'm just wondering, when is it necessary?
Well, interference should never be necessary because it implies that it's unwelcomed. Studio engagement is always necessary, and the middle ground between the two is where we probably live the most. I think studios are businesses, right? And one of the things that I find when I am advocating for studios is that they're often misunderstood. Because they're huge companies, I think sometimes people overestimate the ease with which they do their business and underestimate the challenges that it creates. I think on the other side, studios are often, because they're a business, they're making decisions that are they're not always based on the creative as much as they say they are. It's an analysis. It's an analysis of the product that they're making, like any business would do. Does this thing we're building sell? And I think that's the friction point. So to answer your question more specifically, when is it necessary? I think it's necessary when the creative is damaging the prospect of selling the product. However, sometimes that perception is incorrect, right? Or I've seen that, right? So when you start doubting filmmakers that have done something right 10 times, and on the 11th time, because it's yours, you start doubting, well, I like to, remind folks to bet on the painter. Bet on the painter who's painted those beautiful paintings. And I think the friction comes when people index too far to protecting an asset, because while it is an asset, it is also a creation. Did I answer your question?
Yes, I believe so. We do have a question here from Stacy Beers. Stacy asks what your advice is to a total newbie on getting their ideas seen.
Oh, wow. First advice is learn, right? I think one of the things that I've seen, and I've taught over at NYU and Columbia, and I've talked to a lot of students about this in the years that I've done that, is students are not, they're learning things that are really crucial to the technical process or the creative process, but learn the business. Read the Hollywood Reporter every day, read Deadline. Like, you don't go trade stocks without reading the Wall Street Journal, but too many people are coming into Hollywood without reading. And the reading is good for many reasons, but one of the reasons is you will learn who the people are. And the best way to get an idea to a person is to actually know who that person is when and if you meet them, or who to reach out to. Because if you're sitting on a plane next to somebody and you happen to strike up a conversation and you have read about what they're doing, or what that company is doing, you know which ideas to pitch. So the first step is learn, right? And learn practical stuff too. You need to learn the creative stuff. You need to learn the technical stuff, but learn the business part. And the best way to learn it, if you're not out here doing it, is to learn the people. The next step is to is to do it, right? Write the script. Don't just pitch the idea, because even if you don't write it well, you will have written it once and you might write the next one better. I work with a writer who I think sold his first script after he had written 15 that didn't sell. If you're a writer, write. An actor, go act, find a way, do plays, do short films, do X for Y commercials all day long, because that's how you will get found. As a director, direct. Now, that's what I'm really trying to solve for with X for Y is it's hard to direct something if you can never monetize it. So I think the best way is to just do it. And I know that's easier said than done, but I think if you can connect the thing that you make or that you say or perform or write and connect it to the right people, that's the best way. Because somebody pitching me an idea for something that I don't do is an idea that you've pitched and it's wasted. But if you pitch it to someone who does the thing and you learn the people, you're curating for yourself where that idea can land.
Thank you. We have a question here from Leonardo Gazzetti. Leonardo, we've enabled you to unmute yourself. What is your question for Michael?
First of all, hello from Brazil. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you for your time, Michael. My question is, what was the way to produce a Netflix series and how you begin your career? Because here in Brazil, we do a lot of short films and it's really hard.
Well, is the question how I did my first Netflix series, or is it just how do you produce a Netflix series?
And how you do your first Netflix series?
Okay, perfect. The first Netflix series that so I knew Ted Sarandos, who I think has been in this room before. I knew Ted early on because I helped him out a bit with House of Cards. I was involved with some of that and was really interested in what they were doing over at Netflix. We started selling the first couple shows when we moved into television to HBO. But I think the first show we sold to Netflix was 13 Reasons Why. And I think they were embracing of this model that is now everywhere, where if you want to make something, put the pieces together to make it more valuable to them. So we had a phenomenal writer. Joy Gorman, my colleague at Anonymous Content, was leading the charge and is an extraordinary producer. Brian, I said, was a phenomenal writer. We had Selena Gomez involved as a producer, and a book that was obviously widely loved and celebrated. And so we went there with the proposition, and I think at the time they were still pretty new, and they took a chance with us.
Thank you.
I have a question for you. Was Selena a client?
No. No, Selena wasn't a client, and I produce a lot less for clients than I do now for non-clients. No, it was something that the book that she had been passionate about, and she came into the process early on, and was very involved from the jump.
Do you think that getting an article or sending out a press release that you bought this book and you're planning to do it, and somebody like Selena or her manager read about it and they call you and bring, is that helpful, do you think? Or how did Selena know that you are doing that project? And so
I think to answer the general question first, it always helps. And to go back to the question before about how do you get an idea to the world, I believe, the more proprietary value you can create, the better, right? So a screenplay is better than a pitch because a screenplay has more value. It's further fleshed.
Right.
An idea is more meaningful if it comes with an article or a book or a play or a person, life rights. Spotlight started as an idea that Nicole Rockland and Blythe Faust brought to me, and they had already secured the engagement of the Spotlight team. So that took an idea, but it also gave it momentum and gasoline. So I do believe that if there's something proprietary, and the more you can put together, the better. It's a house that's built costs more money, and you can live in it faster than a plot of land with a dream. And so the more you can build, the better. And I think, in terms of promoting something, I think you got to pick your right moments, because first of all, it's hard to get press on something that isn't real. Even for me, if I don't have something meaningful, if I buy a book that's not a well-known book, I can't get people to put it out there. I want to. So then you have to do the same thing that the next question after the idea question was, which was, how do you get it to the right people? Well, you have to do the homework and find the right people to call or email. I mean, I think that people that are real producers, if we're approached properly through an agent or a lawyer or a mutual friend, we want your ideas. We're not trying to avoid those ideas. We have to curate them. We get a lot. But if it comes through the proper channels, which means find the right people, reach out to the right people, we want that because our livelihood depends on finding your ideas. And so it's an interesting friction, because as much as it's hard to penetrate producers, producers' livelihoods depend on new ideas and new voices and new scripts and new talent. So it's all about how you get on their radar.
We have a question here from Nick Gillette. What Nick asks is there a notable difference in the media canvas your clients are attracted to today versus 10 years ago? Film, TV, commercials, podcasts, other ?
Yes, there is a notable difference. And I think the difference is that they see it as a media canvas, not a TV canvas or a film canvas or a specific canvas. I think that folks that I'm working with now are looking at what's the best way to express this idea or to make something. So it's not always a question of I think the analysis is, because they're unlimited now by all the disparate ways they can exploit their ideas and manifest them and make them, that it's opened the world wide to opportunity. And so everybody that I work with and all of us at my company are thinking about things on a multimedia landscape. We're looking at, how does an audio podcast become a TV show, become a consumer product, become a book. And so that's why we built this ecosystem to service all of those things, because you just never know where the best way to adapt something or to make something should live at the beginning. And sometimes, but generally speaking, we try to look at it through a broader lens than that. And now we don't look at the media landscape just as studios and streamers, or we don't, at least. We're looking at the brands. Part of why we're doing X for Y is the brands spend a lot more money than Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus and all of the streamers put together, and the studios. That's a fraction of what the brands are spending on content. So we're looking there. We want to help them, and we're seeing a lot of innovation on the brand side. Procter & Gamble, one of the most sort of iconic brands ever, that doesn't really need to do much to sell its products, are funding documentaries and independent films, and it's incredible. And if that happens at scale, that's the opportunity for creative people. Bringing the brands to Hollywood, is how it's always been done, and there's been a friction because they've been divided. So what we're trying to do is bring Hollywood to the brands.
Thank you. We do have a question here from Andres. Andres, we've enabled you to unmute yourself. What is your question for Michael?
Hi, Michael. I had two questions, actually. One is, as far as management is concerned, do you think that in general managers are enthusiastic as you are about multi-hyphenates, even if that those interests and expertise extend beyond just TV and film? For example, those of us that also do music or comics or interactive media along with film and TV, is that something we should mention or keep away from the conversation? And the next one is just about X4Y. Specifically, I understand that you want us to upload stuff that could be monetized. But what about, can we upload things that may have been made in a partnership so that we can show them but not sell them, but that they could work as a sample so that we could get hired and funded to do other stuff?
Okay, great. Thanks for those questions. So in terms of the first question, which is about multi-hyphenates, I think that the answer is, it depends on the manager and it depends on the multi-hyphenate. I think all of those businesses are hard, right? Film, TV, music, social creator, NFT creator, whatever it is, they're all hard. And in order to succeed at the highest level in any of those individual crafts, you have to be an outlier, which means you have to be an expert, which means you have to be focused. At the same time, people that are really creative can do really creative things. And they can do it in multiple media. So I would say that to the degree that you do not appear unfocused, to the degree that you can prove that you're an expert in any of those other things, you should always do that, because you should pursue the things that make you happy as a general rule. Most managers and most agents and most humans, including me, are not able to service all of those things because they're not experts in all of those things. So you want to find the right fit for someone or some company that can cover the widest gamut of those opportunities for you. But I think the one thing to caution is to not appear to be so scattered that it becomes a task too great to have you succeed in any one or any two of those things, because somebody who's doing 20 things can't always be an expert at all 20, especially an artist. So I would say that the answer is sort of in the middle. In terms of your second question, for sure, you will be able to upload your work, and what X4Y will be when it launches is LinkedIn, by another name, for creators that will be accessible by the brands to hire editors, creators, directors, actors, models, social creators. That community is all there, and it's going to be accessible by the brand. So by all means, you'll be able to upload pre-existing work. The marketplace where the transactions will happen will be limited to available content that exists exclusively for a period of time on X4Y, so that a brand knows that if they want to buy it, nobody else has it. And that's the core proposition of the marketplace.
Thank you. We have a question here from Diana Cruz. Diana, we've enabled you to unmute yourself. What is your question for Michael?
Hello. My question is, did you ever feel like giving up in your journey of becoming a producer? And if so, what kept you going?
The answer is yes. I feel that all the time, and Tova's laughing because I know she has too. I mean, it is a grind at every level. It doesn't get easier. It actually gets harder the more success you have, because the stakes seem to be a bit higher. I think the entertainment business, and I'm going to answer this not just as a producer, but I think this is my view, at least, on all of us, no matter whether you're a writer or an actor or director. Of any industry, the entertainment industry is the one that is least rewarding in a proportionate relationship between hard work and success. There is no path that is linear to success from a starting point. Because of that, it is a very relentless business, and I think the highs and lows are really tough. And I think I experienced that feeling of utter despair much less frequently since I started thinking of myself less as a surfer and more as a seagull. Because when I was a surfer, I was riding these waves every day. And when I just took a little bit of space between me and those waves, I realized the ups and the downs don't splash me as much. So yes, I've had those moments. I have those moments all the time. I have frustrating phone calls. I did about 5 minutes before I got on this thing that made me want to, you know, pull my hair out. But you roll with it. And I think, look, the thing about most people that are spending an hour listening to me go on and on is that we love this thing, right? And so the compulsion to do it is far beyond emotion. Like your feelings kind of don't matter, and like you're compelled to do this, right? If you're an actor and you are thinking about doing 10 other things, you're probably not really an actor, because a real actor can't do anything else. It's in our something. So I think that is what continues to at least drive me. It's in my DNA to want to create and tell stories.
Thank you. We have a question here from Barbara Weintraub. Barbara, we've enabled you to unmute yourself. What is your question for Michael?
Yes. Hi, Michael. You know, you do so many things. So why did you want to start a new business like X for Y?
I think I do so many things, and I didn't do them all at once, so that I at least am living my own advice. But I do so many things because I'm not satisfied yet with what the opportunities are for me, and I'm not satisfied yet with what the opportunities are for people like me. So X for Y was a response to my looking at the world of Hollywood as it is today, seeing this massive wide open space between creative people and their mortgage payments or their discovery, and being an entrepreneur and wanting to link those two things made perfect sense. But they're mutually accretive businesses, right? Because I'm creating an incubator for talent, which may lead to me discovering talent, and that serves my management business. And I'm creating relationships with brands, which serves my production business and my podcast business. I'm finding talent, which, you know, I can also move into our movies or TV or share with other producers, by the way. So it's very connected for me, but I don't know, I'm not done. Like there's not much more I can do as a manager to be a manager, right? I can sign more clients. There's not much more I can do as a producer. I can make more movies, but I came into this with a bigger goal, which was to make a real impact. And, you know, that's what drives me on a daily basis. And that's what drove me to X for Y.
Cool, thanks.
Thank you.
We have a question here from Frida Tena. Frida, we've enabled you to unmute yourself. What is your question for Michael?
Hi, Michael. It's
Hi.
such an honor. My question is, what's the favorite part of your job?
This, because for me, I didn't have anyone to sit me down and tell me these things. I didn't go to film school. My parents were in show business in a different, largely in their careers in a different part of the business. So I was around it and had great influences, but I didn't have mentorship, and I didn't have, I was sort of the first person to do the things I did. You know, when I started representing directors, there wasn't much of a director management business. There was a few wonderful managers that had a director or two. And now I think most directors are taking managers on, but I didn't have anyone to call when there was a problem to solve. People called me to figure it out, other managers. So I love this. And I love making things that, as a producer, I love making things that move people, right? And you know, when we did Spotlight and we were in a room showing the movie, and people would raise their hands and say, I'm a survivor of abuse, and this movie gave me the power and the courage to speak out about it. Well, that's, you know, as a human, you can't underestimate how valuable that is in terms of, you know, in terms of, you know, meaningful feedback. So I love that. And frankly, some of the movies that I made that nobody saw were just as impactful to people. And that's the reward for me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before I give it back over to Tova, I'd love to read to you something that just came in from one of our attendees, Robert. He says that you've continually been the gold standard from manager to producer to visionary. And as we move forward in this new paradigm, finding and embracing new voices, it is probably one of the most exciting times. Your fearlessness is brilliant and infectious. X for Y is going to be electric, and discovering these new voices is going to be epic. And with that, Tova, I know that you have a couple more things for Michael before we have to go.
That is awesome. Thank you.
Well. I actually would like to get Michael out of that office and into the embrace of his family, because it's already 7 o'clock in the evening. So I'm not going to ask you more questions. But I have to say that everybody learned something tonight. And that includes students, that includes people who want to be students, and it includes us, the staff, and includes me, even after all these years in the industry. I think you're a born teacher. I think I'm hoping one day we'll see you here on the staff of the faculty. And because you have a lot to offer, and you offered a lot tonight. So I want to thank you for taking from your very precious and busy time to come and do that for our students, because it's one thing to learn at school, and it's another one to hear from a real pro who's been out there and who's been doing it, and know what advice to give them and show them a certain path. And I think that your new startup is really a path for some people that they know they can maybe start there. And I think one of the things after school is like, what is the path? So you offered at least one path. And I think that is worth its weight in gold. And so I thank you so much for everything that you're doing and for coming here and enlighten us and give us so much from your experience.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. And I love the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you.